Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. I'm sure you've read the title, you see the thumbnail. I got to talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Tim Hartman, or Datu Tim Hartman. Now, Tim, awesome guy. We made a little trip to Buffalo. I live here in Tennessee. We went all the way from Tennessee to Buffalo. We drove up about 12 hours to meet this guy. Super nice guy. Can't say it enough. He let us into his home. He let us stay with him. Gave us a breakdown on what's going on in the Buffalo area with the martial arts and whatnot. And of course, we got to sit down and have an actual interview and talk with this guy. And we'll get into all that after we talk with Tim. So let's just sit down and get into it.
Well, I'm Tim Hartman. I'm one of the chief instructors of Modern Arnis in the world. I was a senior student of the late Grandmaster Remy Presas, the founder of the art, who's also a goodwill ambassador for the Philippines. They put him on 2 world tours teaching his martial culture around the world until eventually political things happened. It was all during the Marcos regime. He came to the States as a political refugee. I ended up crossing paths with him and one of his students in '85. They actually had a school here in Buffalo. And then '86, I became a direct student of the Grandmaster, and then I just built things on from there.
Yeah, how long have you been in this location?
So this location, so we're in a plaza. We're in the middle of the plaza first. So I moved in officially October 1st, 2001. It was right after September 11th. It was the weekend we bombed Afghanistan. And then that was about a 3,000 square foot place. And then a little over 10 years ago, they asked if I'd be interested in coming down to this end of the plaza. This used to be a banquet hall, actually something I went to when I was in high school. And I went from 3,000 to 5,000 square foot. And the usable space was actually triple what I had, even though just the way the square foot was allocated, it was so much better for me to do. So I've done seminars and tournaments and stuff like that here without having to rent halls, which really worked out well.
And so you've been in this general location since 2001.
In this plaza.
Yeah,
so
and then you moved to this bigger one.
Yeah. So I've been doing. I started. So this is our school's 36th anniversary in 2024. At the end of 2024 here.
Wow.
So.
Wow, that's quite a bit of time being somewhere, man. That right there is enough to be proud of, right there. Just the fact that you could keep a business. Because one thing I always talk about is how and I'm in the martial art business, but how if you went to a person, you're like, I got a business plan. Like, what you got? I'm gonna pay people. I'm gonna beat the crap out of them, and they're gonna pay me to do it, and they're gonna keep coming back. Well, that's the worst business plan I've ever heard in my life. It's like so. Just to be able to keep a martial arts school running, it's really it's just a prideful, awesome thing, man. So congratulations on that. It's very hard, and I'm sure you've seen people come and go just in your time too. How many people you've seen come and go? It's just hard to get the bills paid doing martial arts.
It is.
Good on you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was like I'm looking forward to trying everything out. So, but tell me a little bit more, what got you into specifically, what did you see, or what made you say I gotta do Filipino martial arts?
Well, it was a freak thing. So I was a partial artist. So I was a backyard martial artist.
Yeah.
And since the '70s, we were all doing wrestling and backyard boxing. Everything was backyard. None of the stuff was. I wasn't on the wrestling team. I wasn't part of it. So someone had. I'm Gen X Prime, the first year of Gen X. So when we saw something, we did it. So here's a pile of dirt. Let's jump it with our bikes. All right. Someone said, here's 2 pairs of boxing gloves. So we hit each other.
Yeah.
Wrestle. And of course we were a wrestling town, so we saw professional wrestling. So that just transitioned to, we realized we couldn't suplex each other on something, so we just wrestled. And then I went to high school right around the corner from here, and I met some friends there, and they were all real martial artists. And I had some street experience, so then we would work out together, and I brought a different perspective to the workout. And they were always just telling me, listen, you need to get into something legit. You got the talent. And it was '85 when I found the Filipino Karate Academy. Now, there's a guy named Bill Adams who helped me out a lot. He's an Ishinru guy. And Buffalo was an Ishinru town at the time. I had decided that was it. This is my fallback plan. But my friends and I, we were like really big kung fu guys and jeet kune do guys, and so I figured, all right, you know what? Buffalo's not a large town. We don't mind driving. So let's look around. And I was looking for a school, and I said, all right, my fallback plan is Bill Adams, because he's really the first real professional martial arts school. and I had a whole bunch of people that I knew that were trained there. He would bring in like Joe Lewis and others that would come in through and do seminars. So, this guy was for real, and then a friend of mine called me up. He goes, Tim, you got to check this place out. Here's the address. Come and check it out. So day one, they put a stick in my hand. I'm like, okay, I'm sold. Now it's more than just stick fighting.
Yeah, of course.
And the funny thing was, my favorite black belt magazine was the 1982 yearbook, or the 1983 yearbook for the 82 group. That was when Remy Presas, my teacher, was inducted in the Black Belt Hall of Fame for the first time. So this place was owned by one of his students. I'm in there. I'm like, man, these pictures. He's got all these plaques on the wall that Remy was awarded through the years, and he hung them in the studio. And it just seems awful familiar. Then one day the guy walks in, and I'm like, that's the guy. And it was fate, And I was very fortunate because Remy it was Professor Remy Presas. So he didn't like going by the term Grandmaster. He wanted to be approachable. He wanted people to like what I said, my title is Datu. I'm a Grandmaster. I was promoted by the family. I got diplomas and all this other crap. At the end of the day, it doesn't buy me a cup of coffee. If you're on the mats, it's Datu Tim. For off the mats with adults, it's Tim. And a lot of people, oh, Datu, just call me Tim. Or I'm dealing with the Filipinos. Oh, sir, just call me Tim. Okay, And that's Remy's thing. He wanted people to approach him, and he felt that Professor was a much, and he was working in the colleges in the Philippines. So he was an instructor there. So what is the instructor in the college? It's Professor. So Professor Presas. And people were much more at ease around him, and he was much more approachable, and he wanted to go that route. And so I was fortunate. He actually had a girlfriend here in Buffalo, so he's here all the time. He was very approachable, and I met him. And then 6 months later, I went to my first training camp in Mississippi. Mississippi Summer Camp I forgot where the college was at, and it was 1986. And I walked in the door of the house of the host, and I only saw Professor once. We did a seminar, and I tested for my yellow belt that day. And I walk in the door, and all of a sudden, Tim, how are you doing? I'm like, who is this guy? How does he know my name from 6 months before with the thousands of people he meets on a regular basis? And everyone I know has the same story about this guy. He just has this, when it comes to the students, he would always remember their first name. And, and it was just so welcoming. And there's just, that whole vibe. I mean, the sticks were cool. I mean, listen, I was a weapon freak. Okay, I'll admit it. But I also was punching, kicking, locking, throwing. It was the environment that really sold me. And when I tell people when they come into my school, I go, we do a trial program to see if it's a good vibe. It's not about the martial arts. It has nothing to do with the martial arts, because martial arts, we can get in the argument which is the best martial art. But the other thing is, I think it's better to train something than train nothing. But you got to find a school that you relate to. So it's like listening to music. Well, what do you listen to? Is it country? Is it rock and roll? Is it heavy metal? Is it something in between? And you find your channel that you vibe with. And martial arts, to me, it's a lot of that same thing. It was really this friendly, welcoming environment, and the head of the system was just a cool guy, which was always Professor. But and he would tell jokes when he was teaching. He was really funny, entertaining, and when he touched you, you were thankful that he didn't break you. He was like, this guy you could sense all that power and ability with phenomenal control, and that whole thing was it was like, yep, this is a guy who's really done it. He's got real control, and he's got real talent, and I like the vibe, and that's really what sold me on everything.
Yeah, man. Wow, because a lot of people's story of martial arts is it's sometimes it's very awesome and interesting like that. A lot of times it's just like, I wanted to try.
Yeah.
It's like, and sometimes that leads to the same thing. I tried boxing. Now I'm one of the best boxing coaches in the world. Whatever, it's like, but to have that kind of real awesome experience, it's really hard to get. I mean, I'm at a martial arts school constantly, and our coaches do as best as they can. to do that. And they're very similar to what you're talking about. They remember people's names. They're on top of stuff. But ultimately, that experience, it's just that you got lucky that you got that one.
I got really lucky.
Yeah.
Because usually, how do people find martial arts? It's a chance meeting of somebody, or it's the school that's closest. We're in a plaza. Behind us is an apartment complex, and vehicles go by, and they'll have these bumper stickers for this Taekwondo school. It's the big chain in the area. And I'm like, but I'm right here. But they were at a demo someplace, whatever. I'm like, but you drive by me like 20 times a week. And they're probably oblivious because they're just like going to work or coming from work or something like that. And, did you look somebody up online, which it used to be in the phone book at one time?
Yeah, right.
And like back then, everything was alphabetical when you had a phone book. So I would, before we could do these, it was Western New York Institute of Martial Arts was one of the names I used. Then I went WNY, Western New York Institute of Martial Arts. Then I flipped it. I went to Institute of Martial Arts, Western New York, and it bumped up at the top of the page. And my initial Arnis instructor said, AAA, something for life, Filipino Karate Academy. But he did AAA, so he was the first listing in the phone book.
That's smart, yeah.
Because you didn't have like a quarter page.
Right.
Once you got quarter page, then all of a sudden it started bumping you up and all this other stuff. For those who know what a telephone book is.
I was like, I know. So don't feel too bad. My uncle, same thing. He was a refinishing business, but he out of Nashville. His name was Nashville Refinishing. Mm-hmm. So when you live in Nashville and you look up refinish, it's the first thing that's always going. It's the name. Yeah. It's the two things. I live in Nashville. Refinishing. Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah. So names and stuff like that is very important. But that doesn't keep the people here.
No, it doesn't. No.
There's you guys doing what you guys do, caring about them, because I can see it from the videos and stuff you post are mainly like, or at least some of the stuff I see on Instagram. It's mainly like content stuff, but I see the other stuff. I see it in the full time. Like I see the care. I see the students. I see people don't stick around for no reason. Yeah. So yeah, it's awesome to see that type of thing going on. So when you started getting into what led you into okay, I need to teach and start my own business? You were just being a part of it. What led to that?
It's going to be the same story that everyone else has. I'll guarantee you.
Yeah.
So what do we do? So my story was simple. I went in and I trained. Back then, classes were unlimited. So I was a beginner in the adult program. So I was there 5 days a week because that's when he offered classes. And then when it came time to do, when Professor Presas came to Buffalo the first time, he did something with the police cadets because we have a police academy here, and they asked me if I'd be part of the demo group. I go, sure, whatever. And there's the seminar at night, and then the test was right after. And it's like, and then John Bryant was my teacher. He's no longer with us. He passed away a few years back with liver cancer. He's like, hey Tim, are you ready for the test? I'm like, I didn't know I was eligible. Oh, that's what I like about you. I'm like, okay, all right, sure, whatever. So I got into that, and then they convinced me to go to the Mississippi summer camp. So what professor had a program, if you went to and the Gracies did the same thing too. So you went to camp and you came back basically a training group leader. It was a basic. So we had rank, and then we have the instructorship thing. So usually most people, they got their participation certificate. I got a basic instructor certificate. Now, there were people around me that were much better martial artists, but I was better at doing Arnis because I was in an Arnis school. Most of the people around me at the school, in the camp, they were karate or taekwondo first. Arnis was second. So, so when it came to doing the stick work, we knew who was better. Now, as a martial artist, I wasn't half the martial artist these guys were. I mean, these guys had lots of experience, but so I came back a basic instructor as a blue belt, and so he had me teach. I'm like, sure. And I helped out with some classes before as well, and then I started teaching more and more and more, and then I got to a certain point. I was a brown belt, and we had a thing, and I had left, and then I got a call from the Grandmaster. He goes, do you want to continue? I'm like, well, who's going to teach me? I went back and forth. It was the same thing. Well, do you want to continue? Well, who's going to teach me? And he goes, if you want to continue, I'll be your teacher. Oh, well, I'm 19 years old.
Yeah.
19, 20 years old when this happened. So like, okay, the Grandmaster wants to be and he must have not wanted that because the only way he got my phone number was going to my instructor, my ex-instructor, and got the phone number. Go, I'm going to keep Tim in the art. So, yeah, and then I just, I had a full-time job. I had 2 jobs. I was working for Advanced Auto Parts and Pizza Hut. So, and so everything I did was about, like, for that moment, I said martial arts was going to be my thing. So I knew how much I had to work to be able to do and that's the thing. It's like, well, I didn't quit the jobs because the jobs are what paid for me to be able to do my martial arts. So, and then I just got into it and just, it was really just, I wanted to get my black belt. And then I had a small training group, and then we got a larger training group. I was teaching at my church for a while. I taught at different places here and there. And then, it keeps piling up, and then you end up with something like this. It's not what I wanted. Here's what it is. It's like when you're a kid, I want to be a rock star. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a black belt. I want to be a this. I mean, that was the mindset. I had no clue that I'd end up here. I mean, this is not what I had any plans on doing. I wanted to do music.
Yeah.
That was my thing. And now I'm touring the world teaching martial arts.
Oh, there you go. Well, what kind of music were you into? Like, what did you do? What did you play?
I was a singer, and I did a lot of I did a lot of classical music, and I think I ended up going to college. A lot of weird stuff, family things, and other stuff. And unfortunately, I continued to sing, but I was trying to sing music that I couldn't sing. And so a lot of people think I smoke because they'll hear the rasp in my voice at times. That's just me abusing my voice. I would try to sing anywhere from pop and hip hop to, Scorpions or Queen of the Reich with, and just all this stuff that was well beyond my voice range. And I just trashed the hell out of it. But the thing is, it's performing arts, and martial arts is performing arts, at least the teaching. So a lot of the stuff I got from my music and my theater experience, I apply it to my teaching all the time.
Yeah, I think martial artists tend to, one way or another, definitely usually be artists other ways first. Yeah. It's like, that's why we become martial artists. I know some people get into it for different reasons, but I love the art of it. I love the fact that I can make you do something you don't want to do. And it's not only that, it's artistic. It's not just me being stronger than you or and teaching is one of the best things. I've gotten to teach striking and a little bit of jiu-jitsu at my school now and then. It's like when the times were like, like for some reason the coach said, you want to, I'm going out of town, we got a fighter, just little things. And I've gotten to teach and I've cherished those moments. They're great. There's nothing better than just teaching someone how to do something, they actually do it. Or you see that person X amount of weeks later and they're doing it, it's like, so you really can't ask for more than that when it comes to teaching. So,
well, I think what a professor would always tell us is when we went to a seminar training camp, he would say, go home and teach it. And I tell you, it's so much more, it reinforces what you learn because now you're not doing it. I was pretty lucky. If you showed it to me, I could do it, I didn't know why it worked. I didn't even think about it. It's like, I could do that. I could just, monkey see, monkey do. Once I had to teach people, now it changed everything. So now I had to think about how to teach it. It made me a much better teacher. And then I started refining that skill by hanging out with other instructors and asking questions and stuff like that.
Basically, your style, what you teach, is this something that you took from all your studies? Do you kind of base it off of something that your main teacher, just whatever, however you want to phrase that?
So I think every martial artist does a little,
of course,
blending. So I call it Presas Arnis now. Now, I am not the founder of anything. I am the architect of the curriculum. And that's why I want to make I don't create material. People taught me this material and I just reapply it. So my primary thing is Modern Arnis. So Remy Presas was the founder of Modern Arnis. He taught his 2 younger brothers, Ernesto and Roberto. All three of them to Filipino martial arts is what the Gracies are to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So these 3 were a powerhouse together. And when Remy left the Philippines, when he fled the Philippines, because it was during the Marcos regime, very corrupt. He basically got a death threat and got out of town. Ernesto was still there, and as well as his younger brother Roberto. And eventually what happened, even though Remy taught his two younger brothers, their expression changed. So Remy, for fighting, was the single stick fighter. Ernesto was the double stick fighter, and Roberto was the stick and dagger fighter. So eventually they changed enough where calling it Modern Arnis was no longer a good representation, because they actually had contributions that they made, which was not in the system that Remy created. So to give them credit and to give proper representation, Remy was the founder of Modern. Ernesto created Kombat with a K. And then Roberto taught Henigaran, which is their hometown with an H. Arnis de Mal, I just say Arnis de Mal because it's a mouthful. So Remy was a single stick, double stick, and then the stick and dagger players. That was Remy, Ernesto, Roberto. So the brothers, Remy and Ernesto, were not getting along. And the problem is with family. You love your family, but you don't always like them. And you get frustrated because they do stuff that makes you like, what were you thinking about? Why are you so mad? Because I love you. They make it really hard to like you.
Yeah.
So on multiple times after Remy left, people tried to get the brothers back together again. So I got a phone call, and I put them back together. And that's when I started training with Ernesto. So when Remy passed away, or when Ernesto passed away, I was teaching both systems, and I had thought about this leading up to it. I'm like, okay, I'm a Datu in Modern Arnis. I'm a Grandmaster in Kombat. I also was doing Balintwak, Eskrima, which is an art that, the last art that Remy Presas trained before forming Modern Arnis. I got into Kuntao and Sikaran, which are other arts that allegedly contribute. So I actually did the DNA of our system. I did small circle jiu-jitsu. I'm not certified in small circle jiu-jitsu, but Remy's best friend was Wally J, the founder of small circle jiu-jitsu. It's a derivative of Danzanru. So I would attend Wally J seminars. I would go, and actually at Wally J seminars, I was asked to help Wally J by his son Leon, who would be there as well. So, I mean, at least a third of what we do comes from small circle jiu-jitsu. Even though we use the term of Dumag generically, it's really jiu-jitsu. So I was in this position. I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I went to the roots of modern, and then I went to derivatives of modern, and and I want to represent the family. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a lot of other people did. So when Ed Parker died, his students called it Parker's Kempo. He never called it Parker's Kempo. When Gishin Funakoshi, the founder of Shotokan, he didn't really have a name, but Gishin Funakoshi was a poet, and his pen name was Shoto. So his students called it Shotokan. So I sat there like, well, I do not want to give one brother credit over another. So I started calling it Presas Arnis, and that became my umbrella. But it is Modern Arnis first and foremost, with the Kombat and the Balintwak. And with modern, and when I look at a lot of these martial arts, especially modern and the Kombat, because the two brothers, they're all doing the same parts. It's just like going to General Motors. Okay, you can buy a car or a truck, and a lot of the parts are interchangeable, but they're not the same vehicle. So, and that's a lot of martial arts are that way, where they're related, but they're different. So I decided to do Presas Arnis because what I wanted to do is represent the family. And we do certification in both Modern Arnis and Kombat officially, but we prefer the umbrella. When Remy created Modern Arnis, it was actually Eskrima, and him and his wife were talking about things, and she goes, you should call it Arnis because no one else was using the term Arnis. And that's it's regional. Arnis and Eskrima, one set of islands, they call it Eskrima, another set of the islands, they call it Arnis. I mean, it's like saying, like if you're saying, okay, we do karate, another karate guy says we do martial arts. It's, there's specific karates, and then there's, like we can say Ishinru karate, or we can do Shotokan. Well, Shotokan is Japanese, where Ishinru is Okinawan. Today, it's all one country, but there's a difference. So right. You can say the same about all these subtle things. So that's why I went with the Presas Arnis, because what I wanted to do is represent the family. I didn't want to take one over the other, but ultimately it's Modern Arnis first, because that's the system that the others built their things off of. Kombat is a strong second. There's a lot of small jiu-jitsu in there. We tracked our Kuntao, Sikaran, and Balintwak roots, so we brought more of that to the forefront, because I'm one of the few people in the world who actually do the art as a primary system because most people do the Arnis as a crossover. So they're doing karate, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, and they say, we don't have weapons, so let's put a couple stick techniques in. And where do they pull it from? Arnis.
Very interesting. And so when it comes to like the way that you, like, let's say run a class, right?
Okay.
What do you think, like, do you say that you do something very similar to the way that you've kind of like been taught throughout, a combination of different things you like see? Like, would you say that you like train people, not necessarily the art form of the like the techniques, but like the way you say what the structure of how we're going to learn A, B, or C? Like, for instance, for my coach, one of my coaches, the way he does it is 1 week it's going to be partner drills, and in 1 week it's pad work. Okay, so the first week is partner drills, but we always start 50 kicks each side, then we go to partner drills, so where we learn blah blah blah. Same thing next week, 50 kicks each side, that's our warm-up, plus now we're going to do pads. So, and that's kind of the way he was taught, and that's the way, like, do you say that what you're teaching is kind of the way you came up learning, or is just a combination of a bunch of things?
Well, I would actually say a little like your coach. So we do a rotating curriculum, and there's a couple different ways to do it. But what I do theme weeks, So I have to overlap them. Actually, what I try to do, it's easier with the kids because with the kids I have separate class. So we do A days and B days. So A days is technique, B days is A days is curriculum, B days is skill development. So on my A days, I have 3 classes for my kids, and because the gene pool of the kids, there are a lot more kids than adults, I can do this. I don't have enough adults to do what I'm about to say. If I had a full adult club like I first started with, I could do what I'm about to say. So I have a separate class for beginners, intermediates, and advanced kids. Okay. So they pick one A day, and so Mondays and Wednesdays, or Monday, Tuesdays is your A day. So you pick out which one works best in your schedule, and we do a modified schedule each day. So the beginners don't always go at the earliest time slot. Sometimes they have a later one in the week just to make it more fair for this. So I then on the B days, what we do is we have 2 clubs. We have the basic membership, and then we have a black belt club, which is basically it's a preferred membership. It gives you greater access to more classes and more topics. So, but when we do the B days, we really don't have much belt division there because it's all about the group that's there, and we're doing skills that anyone can do. So so what I'll do is I'll set up a bunch of heavy bags. I said, okay, we're gonna work cardio and agility. So I set up a little parkour course for them. So they jump up on a plyo box, and I want them to do a 2-foot jump, and then I want them to jump down and then do a front roll, go to a heavy bag, straight blast it 4 times. Then what I do is I'll maybe have them do a hurdle over something, and then what I'll do is have them give me 4 or 8 elbows, roundhouse inward elbows, then run back in the line, and then I might have a heavy bag with a stick there, so they do their angles of attack real quick. And those days, drill days, it's all exercise, but I also do it in a manner that can be fun. And then since I have such a large facility, I can do 2 sets, and then one group races the other. And the thing here is we're not a sports school. We're a school. We're not a tournament school, but we're a school that will do tournaments. And I do find that when you compete, you level up. If you're just going for belt, sometimes it becomes whatever. But when there's a goal, say, hey, we got a competition, everyone levels up. So I'll have 2 lines of kids and say, all right, which line's going to be done first? Then I'll switch the lines. I make sure everyone loses. I make sure everyone wins, because I also, if you want to, martial arts develops character. Martial sport reveals it. So every kid loses, every kid wins, and I coach them on how to be better losers and how to be better winners. And the thing here is everyone should be like, hey, good match, win, lose, or draw. You should congratulate that person. Don't go, yeah, I won, or man, I suck at that, and throw a temper tantrum. And I've had that because kids are kids. And the kids make these mistakes, and they're learning opportunities. So I make sure that everyone goes through that process, because I get to learn who I've got in front of me, and then I have a game plan on how to make them better. And the same thing with the adults. Hopefully they don't go to that level, but I've seen poor sportsmanship in adults, and I'm like, hey, dude, come on, chill out, calm down. We gotta, it's a little, but I want to make sure that there is, that was a bad call. I go, of course it was a bad call. I did it on purpose because I wanted to see how you'd react. You're not reacting the way I need you to react. You got to sit there. If you leave it up to the judges, you didn't do your job right.
Yeah.
But but getting back to the main thing is that, we'll do, we'll do 3 months of a course, like your belt, and we have we strike, we lock and throw. The kids, I have them do a very, very simplified grappling program. I just want them to get comfortable on the ground. We do a lot of grappling games to get them, because kids don't wrestle the way you used to. When I went to school, everyone had to wrestle.
Yeah.
Now you only wrestle if you're not on the team.
Yeah.
And these kids don't know how to roughhouse anymore.
Yeah.
We roughhouse.
Yeah, that's the best way to say it. So what do you think when it comes to, obviously you have plans for, to always grow your business, grow your thing, but do you have any like specific things that you think you're trying to do with this martial art that like maybe not necessarily like no one's doing, but like that you're gonna, like what's your goal in that? Like something, do you have any goals like that?
So I think we do a better job than most of the people out there, which is going to come off cocky, but the reason why I use technology, so I do virtual or hybrid classes where I actually have a class physically going on and virtual attendees. We just did a free seminar over the weekend, which lets me reach out to people in overseas that I normally wouldn't have access to. But what I do is I will bring up videos during class when I'm describing something and I don't have someone to do it with. Or what I want to do is I have my own online university, so I'll pull it up on the screen and I'll play it and I go, you see how I'm doing this and you see how I'm doing that? I can't do that from a third person. If I'm teaching you, it's the first person, but I need to be able to step out and see where I made a mistake here. Look, my foot's in the wrong spot. This, or their foot's in the wrong spot. Normally I can't tell you because I'm seeing you here like this. The other thing is that the group, so I run a martial arts organization, an Arnis organization, and we're the largest in the world, not sponsored by the government for modern Arnis. Okay. And we, this May is our 25th anniversary with that. And what we constantly do is work on the next generation. We have written curriculum where a lot of places don't have it. We have them up on our wall. Now I'm digitizing everything and putting it up. I've monitored that. I pull up and I have everything done by themes. I go, here, we did forms the one night. Here's all the forms and there's where they are in the system. Or here's our locks and controls, boom, boom, boom. Now this lock is the same as that. It's the same as that. This was done with the hands. This one's done with the legs. I mean, I have some BJJ people that come in here and I say, hey, can you do an armbar for me? Like, I've never done an armbar before because they're thinking on the ground. They haven't done an arm, but it's still all the same thing. And the great thing, so I'm a blue belt, and it took me a couple decades to get there because I didn't care about rank. I just and it's not my primary focus. I just I get there.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. Yeah.
But I learned how to do all my stand-up techniques on the ground, which I didn't. Which that's the weakness of our art is we can put some on the ground, but we don't have a ground game. Mm-hmm. And when our teachers started doing something, it's because the UFC did, and everyone was trying to. It was. Yeah, and we should have never went there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, ground games. I mean, just grappling, and it's a rough game. It's like even to the layman person, they look at people and they go, I could hit him, I could knock him out, but they usually don't go, I can heel hook him. It's not
my favorite technique.
Yeah. Hey, I love it myself. So. Yeah, man, I thank you for just taking your time, telling us like your story and breaking down some of the stuff. I think you got when I see stuff like these type of martial arts, I ask the questions like I want to know because there's stuff that basic stuff of what this martial art is you can always usually find, but like the people that are doing the martial arts, how they got into it, why they do what they do, that's the harder part. And obviously, I'm sure you do podcasts, you do your own stuff, so I'm sure your story is not unknown. I'm sure you talk about it and all that stuff. But I'm glad you gave me the time to actually just spread, because the way I try to approach things is like the things I want to know, like the questions I want to get to the answers of.
Well, if you're interested in what we do, you can look up datuhartman.com, DATU Hartman.com, or worldmodernarnis.com. It's all the same website. I just put a URL for my personal bio in there. I love the Filipino martial arts. I think there's a lot to it. It has its downfalls, And if you're looking for it, definitely do the research. You can always message me. I actually do referrals quite a bit. Don't know if it'll happen, but I give you a lead on a Savate guy. But that's unfortunately it's another country, and that may not work for you.
Yeah, well, we can always make it work.
But the thing here is what I do is not only the weapon, but there are definitely systems out there that are nothing but weapons. So when we look at things and we do comparisons, got to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. And with some of my social media, I go for the shock effect because it helps the algorithm. So
no one agrees to talk to me, and I'm not saying like I'm anyone, but no one agrees to talk to me if they're full of shit. I've been to plenty of places, or at least contacted them, and they're not very interested in talking or being a part. They might give you a free class, and if they're gonna let you video it, that's kind of up and down. So it's like, no one that is full of shit will talk to people about things. So that's an awesome thing too, and I like the way you approach all this stuff.
I don't even know why that. I mean, at the end of the day, you're putting a podcast together, or you've done this before. It's advertising. Why wouldn't they want their stuff in front? Unless they're doing voodoo, no touch nonsense. But
yeah, and it makes you wonder. I wonder so much about it. Like, these people, do they truly believe it, and they're just somehow like psychologically avoiding these things? They don't even realize they're doing it, or are they just completely aware that they're full of shit? I'm sure it's a hit miss on both, but like, which one is it?
Well, when we see that MMA fighter in Asia taking on all those Tai Chi masters, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Although the question here is, how did that happen in the first place? But why did they accept it if they didn't think their stuff worked?
Yes, it's a very good question.
And that's a big thing here is this. For all martial arts, you got to know the difference between sport and combat. And I know it's combat sports. I love what I do, and like I said, I do BJJ. I do a lot of different things. There is a difference fighting in the ring and fighting for your life. And it's not that neither side can't do what the other does. You do what you train. So if you're always training to thumb the eye or pull the hair, it might take you a lot of training to transition into a sport where it's not legal. Same with the other. If you're always going for the tap out, what would happen in the street if someone tapped you? Would you let go because you're so conditioned to do that? Yeah. I'm not saying you would. I'm not saying you wouldn't, but there's questions here. And, so I think that both sides could do both, but both sides would have to train to do both. And that's what I say a lot. And a lot of people, they hear what I say and they're like, are you saying we can't do this? Well, I might be saying that you can't do this. Yeah. I'm not saying these other guys, but remember, there's BJJ fighters and stuff who've been hospitalized, and even worse in the Philippines, because they tried to shoot in and someone actually shot them. So, but then again, there's also things where a guy pulled a knife and got his butt whooped by somebody because they were that good at what they did. So, it's not a black and white answer.
Yeah, 100%. And once again, Tim, thank you for this interview, and thank you for your time telling us your story and telling us all about your sport.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, man. All right, guys, there you go. I mean, let's start off and say I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed everything that we talked about. Once again, let's take this moment. Special shout out to Tim. Thank you so much, brother, for letting us into your home, letting us into your life, taking the time not only to just sit down and talk with us, but really just all the stuff you did for us, man. It takes a real individual to do what you did without any effort, and just the humbleness you gave to us while we were there was just simply amazing, man. You can't teach this type of stuff. You're truly an awesome individual. Thank you so much for giving us your time and just part of your life. It was awesome, and I look forward to doing it again and keep this relationship going. Now, that being said, I had a great time with Tim. I just explored all the things I didn't know about Filipino martial arts. Started seeing Tim on Instagram and YouTube. I don't have a TikTok, but I know he's pretty big on TikTok as well. I found him to be an interesting guy, and I didn't know much about. I've seen these type of martial arts before, but I never really gotten into them. So Tim kind of would like bridge that gap. I was like, this guy's interesting. I started watching stuff. I'd like to check this out. I reach out to him. He hits me back. We also have a mutual friend in Sal Malvi, the current Karate Combat heavyweight champion. He is one of my coaches, and I guess they had some back and forth, and they did some stuff together. So that helped lead me to Tim. And just what I've learned about the Filipino martial arts system is just so interesting. I don't really get outside of the range of hand-to-hand jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, these type of things, MMA as much, but being a part of it and like learning the whole system, which, by the way, video coming up. I did a class. You guys are going to enjoy that. I got to spar. I got to do all kinds of things learning about the Filipino martial art way. And yeah, and I just can't say enough about, I love exploring martial arts and learning so much about there's just so much to learn is all I can say. And then I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. I hope you guys learned something from it. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget, if you made it this far, we definitely want to hear from you. We want to know what you have to say, what did you enjoy the interview? Did you learn something about Filipino martial arts? Anything, guys, that can keep this conversation going about the martial arts world and Filipino martial arts as of right now. And guys, once again, thanks for all the support. Please keep helping out the videos, keep watching, keep commenting, doing everything you can. Thank you so much.